Welcome to Inspire and Move, the show that inspires you to create, connect, and grow. I'm going to bring you meaningful conversations, aha moments, and all the motivation you need to up-level every part of your life. I'm Ali Aruda, founder of Inspire and Move, and your personal hype girl. I've gone from fashion school to celebrity stylist to corporate marketing to brick and mortar entrepreneurship with my husband, each time learning incredible lessons how to pivot, reimagine, and implement the steps to become successful. I am passionate about inspiring others to live their best life, a life of joy. We have the power to design a life that we love because life is too short not to. The best part is that you weren't meant to do this alone. If you feel like you were meant for more, let me ride shotgun with you, and together, let's get you to where you want to go. Hello, you guys. Welcome to the Inspire and Move podcast, and welcome to today's episode. I have such an amazing guest for you today. I am so excited to welcome my best friend, Rachelle Saevil, founder and creative director of Saevil Row. Saevil Row is a remarkably talented branding agency. They are international and have actually been the ones responsible for my personal brand, Inspire and Move, as well as our business, Benchmark Fitness, among a lot of other incredible brands and businesses. And the team at Saevil Row really believes in that, great founders have a vision and great brands have a voice. And I am so excited to dive into the episode today and some really good conversations surrounding the significance of a brand for your business and also the importance of a personal brand and how you can find this harmonious balance between your personal brand and your business brand. But not to worry, if that is something new for you, Rachelle is going to share some really awesome, tangible tips that you can take away and put into action. So grab a notepad or Post-it notes and a really cute writing utensil because we are going to dive into some good stuff. So let's dive in. Hello, you guys. Welcome back to the Inspire and Move podcast. I am so excited you're here, and I am so excited for today's very, very special guest, my very best friend, Rachelle Saevil of Saevil Row, all the way from Sydney, Australia.
Oh my goodness, I'm so excited to be here. I'm just like, I have goosebumps. I love looking at your face, and I'm so excited to dive into this episode with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. And I love that we coordinated this with our two very different time zones and just getting to see your face. It's amazing. I'm so happy here. It's very cool that actually, right? The first time is actually, I think, my very second podcast experience ever was when you and your Aussie BFF Gina you guys were really working on the Girl Interrupted show.
I loved having you on that. It was so fun. Just like you've been saying, podcasting is so amazing. It's so great to be able to connect with other people, especially from around the world, and just like share great messages and inspirational things. So yeah, I'm a fan.
I can't wait. So we had a couple of topics that we wanted to kind of touch on. And I think where we can really dive into first is branding, which is what you are so remarkably incredible at. And I would love to kind of go between the importance of a personal brand, but also how important it is to have a strong brand for your business.
Yes, this is a loaded one because there is so much happening in the digital space right now, in the, real life space as well, the on and offline, if you will. And it's so just topical, I guess, this whole like personal brand. What is a brand? How do we leverage a brand conversation? And I'll say this is that consumers have never been more attached to brands than in the past. They are buying solely on the brands that they connect with and that they engage with. If you think about how you yourself are asking for a new, I don't know, foundation suggestion, or like, oh my gosh, I love that top. Where did you get it from? It's like, oh, I'm looking for a cleaner for my house. You're looking for these different things that you're not necessarily going to Google anymore for. Of course, I think people absolutely still use that as a mode of finding new businesses. But if you think about it, you're asking your inner network, you're asking people who have worked with other companies, other brands, what their recommendations are. And so having a really, really strong brand and presence is what's going to set you apart from everybody else. It's going to cut through the noise, if you will. And so if you think about how you as a consumer is starting to engage with content on social media, how you are engaging with businesses, how you are buying from other people are doing the same thing, like other people are making those same assumptions and those same purchasing decisions. And so I think it's really, really important to come back to the root of what is a brand? A brand isn't just a logo. A brand is the encompassing feeling of engaging with customers, how you want people to feel when they engage with you. If we're looking on, we'll use the example of a personal brand first, and then we'll dive into the business side. If you think of the personal brand, a personal brand is essentially how you come across as a person, and it's so simple, but yet it can be so complicated because you're wanting to really figure out how to leverage you as an individual to connect, to engage, to inspire. And it really comes down to how you are positioned, how you come across when you are out in the wild. It can even come down to the clothes that you wear. So I'm looking at you. One of your brand colors is pink. You are very on brand at the moment. You're wearing a pink sweater. You have a very neutral background. This is very like on brand for Inspire and Move and for Ali Aruda. And so when we're thinking about personal brands, it really is our brand persona. It's how people perceive us. It's how we come across. And we're thinking about pillars that we contribute to. So again, I'm going to use Inspire and Move as a brand because there's so much there, and I guess Ali Aruda as a personal brand, because obviously everyone listening to this, they're going to be able to really relate to that. So Ali Aruda as a brand has a lot of energy, has a lot of personality, and has a lot of compassion. And so we want to really make sure that we can really take that away out of every touch point. What you see is what you get with Ali Aruda. Like you see her online. I'm like talking about you as a third person. You see
I
her
love it.
online and you get that from her in person as well. They're not different experiences. It's really cohesive. It is really succinct. And that is one of the biggest things that we want to remember about a brand is how you are engaging on all of these different touch points. So really leveraging the personal brand is like leveraging yourself. What are the things that you are most passionate about? What are the things that you can really contribute? And you're kind of building out these content pillars, if you will, to utilize in social media to make sure that you're providing value to people. And so what I would really say with personal brands is it is coming really clear on those pillars. With Inspire and Move, maybe it's, an inspirational thing. Maybe it's a workout thing. Maybe it's a connection thing. And we're coming out with these topics, I guess, that you can continue to engage with your audience and your community. And you're just making it a lot about the brand. And so having those brand pillars are really important so they can kind of tie back into the values of what you value as a personal brand. And then that kind of bleeds through everything else. So here's where, and that makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Like
Can
yeah.
I just say how much I'm loving this? That, I mean, you are my brand guru that I come to for everything, but I feel like I'm also just getting this one-on-one tutorial right now to ensure that my brand pillars are up to par and my personal brand, and then we'll dive into the business side of everything as well, but just that everything is on par with what I need to be
I can
doing and
see you
achieving.
taking notes too. Were you just
Yeah,
taking
I literally
notes?
was writing something down.
Perfect. Brand pillars. It's so interesting because I'm even in the process actually building up my own personal brand. I've never done that. I've always really been the brand behind the business. And I'm really looking at building up this personal brand. And it's so funny because I think, I come at it with a different lens because obviously I have this expertise in branding for other people, but it's always like, what is it saying? The shoemaker's children never have shoes. Like when it's something that you have to do for yourself, it's always the hardest thing. But I'm coming back to basics and I'm looking at what is it that I can offer? Like, what is my end goal? What is my strategy? And then I'm kind of building things into that. And I'm kind of going through the process of like, what are those content pillars? What will I be talking about? Because that not only makes your life easier, it makes producing content so much easier. You're not just going on the fly of like, oh, today I'm going to post this. It's like we need to be strategic about how we are leveraging these brands because they're there for a reason. We're really trying to build up community. That's something you're so great at doing. And so we're really looking at providing a lot of value to the audience, and to be able to really, again, bring that back down to the personal brand, to everything, everything you do should be filtering through that. So when you're building out that personal brand, it is about you. There's nothing you need to change, because you're just leveraging what already exists within you. And I think that's really important to remember, is that the personal brand is a lot about image. It's a lot about how you are portrayed and how you want to be portrayed. Like, you have the opportunity here to really create something and leverage yourself as that brand and as that business. And I think this is where it ties in beautifully to the business brand, especially if you are somebody like you yourself. You have a bricks and mortar business, you have Benchmark Fitness, and you have Inspire and Move, which is your personal brand. So it's like, how do I leverage the two? How I have two brands that I'm working on. How can I leverage those? So number one, you need to have a really clear identity on both of those brands. I think Inspire and Move needs to be very uniquely you, because we are leveraging Ali Aruda. Benchmark needs to be distinctly Benchmark. It is the brand, it is the business, it is the community that goes along with it. Now, absolutely, these two can cross, and they should. I think when you have a personal brand and a business brand, absolutely they should come into play with each other, but they need to be distinctly their own. And now this is where I've seen people in the past blur the lines, because they start to implement maybe certain elements of their personal brand into the business. Let's just say, for example, colors. They're using Inspire and Move is now using pink and Benchmark. It's like, no, 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 no. And I'm the brand police. I will come up and be like, excuse me, this is not part of your brand persona and vibe. So we're not going to be using pink and Benchmark. I'm not saying that you've done this, but like, I will be
No,
there if you even
you called
try.
me out. You were the font police one time for Benchmark, and you fully put it on Instagram.
But the thing is like, we have these beautiful, distinct identities. They need to remain that way, because they're there for a purpose. We're creating brand trust. We're creating brand loyalty. And so if you start to make things, if you start to blur the lines, your customers are going to notice that as well. And they're going to be like, wait, what? You want to be buying from brands that are just so tight and so perfect, that there's never any question about like who this brand is. One of my absolutely favorite brands is Aesop. I adore everything about them. Their lotions, their soaps, like my house has those soaps in every basin of, of the premises. And for me, I'm just so loyal to that brand, because it evokes a feeling within me. I don't know. It feels like a little bit, I feel elevated. It brings a beautiful element of lifestyle to my home, to that aesthetic. And I just adore that experience. Now, if they all of a sudden change their packaging to something that wasn't totally on brand with them, I'd be like, wait, this is weird. What's happening? Like, I'd be concerned. I'd be concerned for them. I'd be like, what is going on? Does that not make
So,
sense?
what is the first thing that caught your attention with Aesop? Was it because it's sort of like that apothecary, like that dark mercury bottle, and obviously a really beautifully designed label? Was it the label? Was it the brand font? Was it the brand logo? What was it?
It, it was none of that, actually. It was
Ooh.
going into the store and feeling the experience. Like, going in and being like, it's everything. It's the senses. Of course, it's the beautiful bottles and the labels, but when you go into the store, it is so gorgeous, and it's so succinct with every store you'll go to on planet Earth that has an Aesop store. Like, they look the same, they feel the same, they smell the same, they just have the beautiful design of it. And you're going to get that. What you see is what you get. It's like, we know that what you see online and what you feel when you have their products and what you see when you're in store and feel when you're in store is the same. And that is the consistency of beautiful branding. Again, what I said at the beginning of this call, this is not, branding is not the logo. It is really the feeling. It's everything about a brand and a product. And so when we're thinking of as that example, it's like, you go into these stores and you feel connected. Like, there's something about the store that I want to bring home and recreate that feeling in my home. And that is the brand loyalty that I've adapted to, because that is something that, again, I want to recreate that feeling of luxury in my home, and I'm bringing that brand into my home to achieve that.
I love that. Okay, here's a question for you about a brand that I've loved for a while and I dabble in their products, but I think I'm most fascinated by the coexistence of the brand itself, the product based brand, and the two founders and their personal brands. And that is the brand Summer Fridays with
Yes.
Mariana and Lauren. And I think they have, and I would love to hear your thoughts on that because I feel like they, as a relatively young company, I think they've been around for somewhere between 5 and 7 years. So I'm going to say still relatively young, but they've really grown their SKUs. Their branding is, in my humble opinion, excellent. And I think what really intrigues me and fascinates me is their brand execution, that they'll do these pop-up ice cream stores in New York City and they'll have custom made. And I feel like we can also riff on that with some of the work that you've done with some brick and mortar work. I'm thinking of Henry's Wine Bar in Toronto. But having those brand pieces kind of come into something that's unconventional. Like you don't think Summer Fridays jet lag mask and an ice cream cone with branded wrapper paper.
Yeah, so that's a great one. And there's a few other brands that come to mind that do this really, really well as well. So I feel like that's a great brand to liken to because what we have is, like you said, a brand with multiple SKUs and they did start out with only a few products, and then how they've been able to really blend that out. But they're using their personal brands to leverage the business. And I think that's, I got sidetracked. That's where I was going with the Ali Aruna and the benchmark thing, is that we're building these individual brands as their own unique identities, but we're building them together at the same time. And that's exactly what the girls did with Summer Fridays. And so we're leveraging their personal brands, the way that they're building a lifestyle around themselves to then sell moisturizer, to then sell the jet lag mask. And it becomes, again, it becomes a part of your life. You're adapting to these, I'm going to call them influencers, but like, and business owners. You're adapting to these people, to these personal brands. You're buying into them. You love that outfit that they were wearing. Oh, what's that wine that you're drinking at dinner? Oh, you went to that restaurant? That's so great. You're like, this person seems really cool. And then they're like, oh, and then I'm using this product. And you are more likely to buy that product based on the fact that you like them and you think they're cool and, their products more than anything else. So they are the ones who are influencing the product. Just like I was saying earlier, if you're asking, you put a question box on your Instagram, like, what's your favorite tinted moisturizer right now? It's a good chance you're going to buy one of those moisturizers from something somebody else said, versus going on Google and being like tinted moisturizer, or searching on Sephora to figure out, what kind of brands are out there. You're going to ask somebody that you trust. So you built this, these people have built up this trust because they have great taste in, again, their lifestyle and the things that they're offering, and you might feel a similarity to them. There might be something about them that you really like. And so you're so much more likely to buy from them because you already like them as a person. And so the same, another brand that I really love that does this so well is Jen Atkins and Way, the hair care brand. And I'm obsessed with Way, and I love Jen Atkins. I think she's a beautiful, incredible founder, and she is so on edge with this brand. And I'm going to use this one a little bit more as an example because, and that will sort of liken to what you said about the Summer Fridays installation. Brands are creating these experiences that you can experience the brand in non-obvious ways. So again, Summer Fridays, jet lag mask, you wouldn't think of ice cream, but it's like you would think of Italian gelato because all of a sudden you're jet setting to Italy for this experience and you bring along the Summer Fridays jet lag mask, And so they're trying to create these experiences that transport you somewhere out of your ordinary to not even think about the brand, but then you're thinking about the brand. And so Way have such a beautiful way of doing this. They
I get
play
it.
on, you get it, you get it. They have such a beautiful way of doing this because the name can really transpire into different things. So most recently, I think they did an installation where they had like a tennis exhibition. Like they brought all these people and they did this like tennis installation and tennis experience. And, they they've used their brand name within this, like here is the way, or like the way is here kind of thing, and they're using the brand name in the sayings or in directions, for example, and they're bringing people into this experience. I think they were promoting some new product and they were bringing everybody together to create an experience around the brand so that they're leaving thinking about the brand, but like in ways that didn't even, wasn't originating from hair care, if that makes sense.
I love that. And I feel that, I mean, even the way that you and I met years ago in Toronto when I was working for a PR agency and you essentially were the media. And so that was how we met. And here we are all these years later. But it's so fascinating to see, or even for us to be able to relate. And I'm sure there is a large group of people that might be able to relate with us. But the times have just changed in terms of media and marketing. And obviously, there is a huge appetite for influencer marketing. But it is so interesting to see what we would have experienced years back with PR events and how they kind of are still PR events, but yet they're more of like that influencer marketing experience or these pop up experiences that really tap into the brand identity, but cultivating this entirely different experience, highlighting this brand and these products.
Yeah, and what's so interesting is even more proof that this is something that we do need to be paying attention to and to be really smart consumers is Forbes just released this list of the wealthiest influencers, and I read the list and you would be shocked at how much some of these people, like to the sum of $80 million a year. Some influencers were making $4 million, some were 20. There was one that was making 80,000. I can't remember who that was. And it wasn't like a celebrity influence. Like, well, it was a celebrity influencer, but it wasn't a celebrity it wasn't a Jenner kind of thing,
No,
is what
we're
I'm
like,
trying to say.
Jenner, no.
No, it's just incredible because we're also finding a lot of these influencers, again, these personal brands are coming out with product lines, in collaboration with so and so. And it's just wild that again, because we are buying so much into this person, we're like, oh my gosh, anything they do, I will buy from. And so it's like that person's coming out with a collaboration for an activewear line. Yes, I'm so into it because I already love their workouts that I do online, or I already love this product that they endorsed. And so, yeah, I guess the biggest thing that we're seeing here is the trend that we're not buying from brands anymore. We're not buying from companies, we're buying from people. We kind
I
of
feel like
always have.
Oh yeah, like I feel like that was a big thing in like the past for me in network marketing, that people buy from people that they know, they like, and they trust. And that wasn't just a network marketing thing. I think that is in general, kind of going back to what you were saying with, consuming Lauren Ireland and Mariana Hewitt of Summer Fridays, that you see what they post and you're like, oh, I love her aesthetic. I love her style. Oh, that looks beautiful. Oh, I want that lip tint. Add to cart. And it's
Exactly.
this whole journey.
That's not even a question because you've already bought into the brand. And I think in a way, that's actually the most intelligent form of marketing and branding, because we're buying into a lifestyle of somebody else that in a way, like we kind of maybe want to emulate a little bit of that for ourselves. If there's an influencer that you follow who lives in Europe and you're like, oh, I just want to bring that element of Europe to me. And again, they come up with a product or they're collaborating on a product, like you're so much more likely to buy that product than not.
You realize you have my head spinning right now, and I already have a bunch of post-its with notes, and we are going to absolutely be booking a post-interview call to dive into brand experience and how to ensure that Inspire and Move and Ali Aruda and Benchmark Fitness are all working harmoniously together. So just
Yes.
know that that will be coming to your inbox. Okay, here's a question for you. So if someone, I feel like we could actually go in both this question into both directions, that if someone has a brick and mortar business or a product or service business, let's go kind of broad. So you have a business that you investing, you're generating revenue, but you don't have a personal brand. How would they start?
Okay, so let's use like you said, a product or service. I mean, even brick and mortar, you're offering one of those two anyways, and you don't have a brand already. So the first thing is not every business needs to have a personal brand. So I'll say that because I think a lot of people feel comfortable putting themselves out there and they also might not need to. But I think I would take a really good look. The service sort of one to one is a little bit more particular than one to many, I guess I would say, because oftentimes when you are a service provider, that one to one, having that personal credibility is really important. So I would take a really good look at what business you're offering. I also know a lot of clients who have product-based businesses. They don't want to be they don't want to be front of camera and they don't need to be, but I would say that certain businesses are going to require different things. And so take a really good look at what you offer and are you finding that people are really needing that credibility or they're needing that personal touch point? That could be an inkling that you might want to look at starting a personal brand. I also wouldn't say we're not trying to do things for the sake of doing things. I think you really need to be intentional here. And that's what I'm saying. Not every business needs to have a personal brand. But if you are somebody who, if you're a personal coach or if you're a personal development coach, oftentimes you are your brand. So it's not as if you need to create two separate accounts. It would probably be looking at ways to weave in a little bit more personal content into your channels if we're focusing on Instagram, for example, or focusing online. But if you are a business that has, gosh, like what could I use as an example? If you're a restaurant, let's use Henry's in Toronto, because you mentioned that earlier. If you're Henry's in Toronto, again, that might not require that's a husband-wife duo behind that brand. You might not require a personal brand behind that because you're really focusing on community, you're focusing on the restaurant, you're focusing on quality. So maybe you're using personal content in the stories. And that could be an option where you're coming, doing more face to camera stories. You're talking about, the new seasonal menu, or maybe the husband and wife did a trip to Europe and they want to bring back more French influence into the menu. There's ways that you could bring in your personal story into the business without having a personal brand and a business brand. So that's one example of that. If you are I just keep coming back to you because I feel like most people can really relate to that. As Benchmark as the brand, and then we have the business owner, one of the pillars of Benchmark is community and it is connection. And so if Allie didn't have her own personal brand, yet she is the owner of Benchmark, we'd be wanting to look at building out a personal brand for Allie because she can leverage that to bring more members into the gym. She can bring that to leverage personal training and, really building the community around the gym because she again, you as the third person, she's
Thank you.
building she's building people around her, around Ali Aruda, building trust and building credibility, and then funneling that into the gym. And so in that instance, I think it works really well to have a personal brand. And so for me, for example, like I was saying earlier on in the call, Saevil Row is an international branding agency. We have clients all around the world. We have built up this credibility within our work that I don't personally need to be the face of anymore. I think at the beginning, so much of what we were bringing in was revolved around me because I was the founder. I am the founder, and I sort of was the face of this business, building up that credibility and trust. I don't need to be that person anymore because the business has grown to a place that it can really run on its own. And if I sold it tomorrow, it's not attached to me. The name kind of is, but it's not attached to me as that personal brand. And so I can now separate myself and build out this personal brand where I can focus on other things. And I'm not going to tell you what that is yet because that will be another podcast for another day because something I'm working on behind the scenes. But I can then really focus on building up my personal brand. But to notice that as I build up my personal brand, that's going to naturally funnel people into Saevil Row, the branding agency. So it kind of works hand in hand. And I think, like I said at the beginning, not every business needs to have a personal brand, but figure out for you in the space that you're at where this could be best suited. And just some tips then, where would they start? Okay, yep, I realize now I need to start a personal brand. Where do I start? I'd look at the end in mind. What do you have to offer and where do you want this to go? So if there is something that you can actually offer people as a standalone service down the road, maybe that's what you're going to work towards. And so we want to look at ways that your personal brand could be offering personalized service. So let's look at an interior designer, for example. Say there's someone who has a business, maybe they have a few staff, and they've been running an interior design company. And so we'd want to be looking at taking them out of that. Say they want to then have their own personal brand and they want to start a course for beginner interior designers. They know that that's their like 1 to 3 year goal. So they would want to start working on content that would be targeting very amateur interior designer or the DIYer. They'd want to be looking at who that ideal client would be. They'd want to be looking at the type of content that they could be providing that adds a lot of value to these people. Again, keeping in mind their ideal client's going to be amateur or DIY. So the content around what they produce should be targeting those people. It should be very DIY content. It would be tips on how to repurpose something you found on the side of the street or something you found on Facebook Marketplace. Different paints or different processes that you could go through when bringing something else to life, or how to choose wallpaper and do it yourself, tips on how to put that in your powder room, like start with a small room. So I would say that, we're really looking at content that is super applicable to that ideal client, and again, if you're looking at that beginner market, it's like, what type of information would they need to know? Oftentimes, you are your best target audience. You're already, at the end of the road. Where did you start off? Did you begin? What did you need to know at those very early days? Everyone starts as a beginner. So even if you're at the end of, you've learned a lot along your years, you were a beginner once as well. So what information did you need to know then? And build your content strategy around that.
Man, I love how quickly your creative brain fires. Like, it is so fascinating. Whether it's you and I texting and you come up with ideas or things to say, or just hearing you come up with basically an entire plan for a interior designer with an agency who wants to start a personal brand. I hope there is somebody listening, because that was a step by step how to.
I feel like it was a
From
little bit all over the place because I'm like, I do have all these ideas. I can't condense them into like one tip. But I think if there's anything, and obviously we want people to walk away with this episode being like, wow, that was really insightful and I have some tips I can action. I think the biggest thing, if we're looking at building out that personal brand, it's getting really clear on what you want out of this. Like, what is it just building community? Then great. You can totally, absolutely do that. But think again about who those people are that you want to be bringing along. If you are, again, somebody who wants to start out a product that's going to be teaching people how to do something, you're going to want to think about your early stages. What did you need to know? What did you overcome? What did you learn that got you to where you are? Because at the end of the day, if someone's just starting out, it's likely that they want to be where you are. They want to achieve that success. So you need to really start from the beginning. And then what I said earlier, building out those content pillars. If we know we're targeting those DIY people or those really early stage people, what do they want to know? And I think we definitely need to add in an element of inspiration and aspiration to that, because we want people to be brought along the journey to aspire to something greater than what they've maybe experienced in the past, and really, inspire them to go after their goals, to go after the things that they are ambitious about. And then, so I think from there, then it would probably be creating more of that cohesive brand identity. Like even a personal brand needs to have a brand identity. You need to have colors that, evoke the emotion that you want to evoke within your brand. You need to have consistent fonts. I mean, Canva now is such a great tool for that, especially for people who are just starting out. They have color palettes for you. They even have a whole, like, here's plug and play a logo, It's like there's tools now that you can leverage without spending thousands of dollars on an agency. If someone came to me and they were at that early stage, I wouldn't even recommend working with us, because we're not that place for the beginner DIY person. We're not. We're for brands who have grown and evolved, and we want to take them to that next level. And so it's getting really scrappy with the resources that you have available to you and getting creative with that and putting that out there and being consistent. Like I said, brand police want the consistency across the brands, because that is what people are going to buy into. They're going to start recognizing your brand. They're going to start paying attention. They're going to start trusting what you are producing. what you're saying and what you are contributing to. So I think that's really, really important to, again, figure out who your audience is. What do they need to know? Remember, you were once them. You're going to then create the content pillars for the content that you're going to be producing to help those people. And then you're going to stay really consistent with your brand image, with the colors that you use, with the fonts that you use. Oh my gosh, take it another level and only wear, the brand colors that you evoke on your stories, on your photos. It's like, if that's, be so involved in your own brand that it's not even a question about what you need to do or who you are, because again, your personal brand is you. We're just leveraging you. There's nothing
I
else
love
to
that.
it
Be
other than that.
involved in your own brand. Literally wrote that down. Be involved in your own brand. Boom. I love that. Okay, you had said something just a few minutes ago that was kind of a really great layup when talking about, the amazing tool that Canva is, and that's my second best option after Saevil Row, and I have to try to force myself to do something on my own. I will try to do that. But let's talk about what the difference is between, having that kind of let's start scrappy and messy, but let's get into action and get some stuff done versus graduating to making a investment in a creative agency, branding agency, and what that experience looks like. And maybe when would be a good time to look at something like that.
Yeah, so I think obviously, like I said, everyone needs to start somewhere, and oftentimes that's validating an idea. So whether we are, I don't think you need to validate your personal brand because again, you are your brand. There's nothing anybody can do or say to remove that from you. It's just more leveraging the personal brand. If we are focusing on the business side of things and you have this new business idea, oftentimes like we want to test the market. We want to make sure that it is something that people are going to buy, that people are interested in. And if you don't have a solid business case, I don't feel like that's the best time to invest in a full shebang branding. Go simple, go lean, do something really sleek. And I don't want to use the term generic, but honestly, I just think you need to start somewhere. So don't focus on doing this whole big, bells and whistles production because we're just really trying to focus on validating the idea and like making money basically at the beginning. And so I think at that point, if you're in that stage, Canva is a great tool for you to get started. When you have tested the market, things are rolling, things are really happening. Where we see clients, and these are sort of the two people that we target, is when you have outgrown your existing brand or your business and your brand no longer reflects the business stage that you are at or the quality that your business has evolved into. We need to relook at that because now we're attracting a whole other level of clientele and customers that we really want to make sure we're being super intentional with the way that we are attracting them. And so if you've outgrown your brand and again you started scrappy but you validated this idea, it's going really, really well, you experienced this growth far beyond what you ever thought was possible, we would then take that on to be like, cool, let's do this now with intention. Obviously, you've built foundations before, but we'd really want to be looking at how we're future proofing it. So we take what you've already built upon and we future proof it to build you for the next big success and the next big milestone. And so I think that's a really great time to engage an agency because you're clear on the product and offering that you have. You've seen success, you know what customers are buying, you know what they're buying into, and then you can really take that to elevate and leverage your brand. So we're really talking about the elevation stage. Or you're a business that, again, maybe you're coming out with a line of, I'm in this postpartum phase. So let's use like a postpartum hair product for, again, hair loss after postpartum. That you're really clear on your target. You know that this is a need in the market because there are not many brands out there that are doing this. There's a big need for it. You've been involved in this, I don't know, a workshop with some other women who are experiencing this thing. So you want to come up with this product and maybe you have some funding or you have an investor who's going to help you create this product. Oftentimes, especially with investors, they're looking for solution. Like they're looking that their money is being invested in something that is really credible. So you need to have the brand, the packaging super, super tight. So say in an instance like that, where you have money that you're investing yourself, or you have an investor on board, but they really want and you want to see a really cohesive experience. That's when you would need to come up with, work with a branding agency to really come up with that strategy from the ground up. So we sort of see two people, like whether you are willing to invest in it yourself because you have this product idea and it actually requires the brand to be super tight to go to market with. That's when we see people, or you're at the point of growth that we need to leverage the brand for the future growth that you're going to be experiencing. So I think those are two instances where someone would come to us. But I do, like I said at the very beginning, we want to make sure as well that you've done this on your own at the beginning to make sure that it works and that you're not wasting money. We wouldn't even work with you anyways because we'd want to make sure that you are investing your money in the right places, And so I do think there's a place and a time. But once you've done this yourself and you've gotten creative with Canva and you've gotten to a point where your brand no longer meets your business, you're really growing, you're experiencing this level of sophistication, that's when I think you really need to consider how your brand is being portrayed.
Man, I don't know about the listeners, but I'm so hyped and talking all about brands. Like it, to me, it's a sexy topic. I love it. And
I
for
mean,
us, like
it's my
even,
favorite too.
I think it's probably no surprise to everybody listening that Rachelle has designed the Benchmark Fitness brand as well as the Inspire and Move brand. And
And the
when
Vine.
and the Vine, which lives inside Benchmark Fitness, which was so exciting. And I cannot wait to have Jordy and Mike on the show to talk about the Vine. And maybe we'll actually have to do an all like group collab podcast to really also dive in even deeper about how here's one brand with another brand inside of it and how they coexist and work together, and then adding on personal brands. It's like that's like a little game. That's gonna be really fun.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
But when we bought the gym, and I've sort of shared this story with the listeners, that was the gym that Matt and I went to, and we were going to make this investment and purchase this gym. But we knew from the get-go that we wanted to totally rebrand and create an entirely new experience because it was a nice gym. It was clean. It had nice equipment. It was in an excellent location, but there was no vibe, no community, no culture. And it was, in my opinion, Matt's opinion, it was not a hot brand that we really wanted to give it a new identity. So I feel like that would kind of fall into more of that first option of recognizing the need that, yeah, we want to start big and strong versus, like, I guess technically maybe it's a little bit of both because it was a brand, but it definitely needed to be elevated. And we wanted to put our own mark on it and have an entirely new identity.
Well, that's the thing that I was saying is that business, even though you bought that business and it was an established business, that was not the vision that you guys had for Benchmark. So irrespective, like you could not have just put the name Benchmark into the existing logo and ran with that because the brand that existed did not even come close to what you had envisioned and what you have created. It is just, you would 100% at the level where we needed to get you this experience that really reflected what you had in your mind to create because that did not exist then. So yes, absolutely. That needed to be something that you invested in to create what you have now. You are at that pivotal point where again, you weren't just buying a business to buy a business. That wasn't what this was. The goal was to buy a business to turn this into something that it is now. And what it is now did not exist then. The community that Benchmark was not in this gym. The vibe and the aesthetic and the attention to, the towels and, the member community things and the group fitness, like none of that existed in the form that was the gym before you bought it. So absolutely, you were in that place where you needed to go into brand overhaul. More than anything, it was not the vision and it did not reflect what you had in your mind to create. And that I think is the biggest thing is that we created that with the brand identity. We wanted to focus on community. That was a whole thing, even in the brief, even when we presented you the concepts, it was like, here's how this ties into community. Here's how this logo portrays this. It's because again, the brand is so much more than a logo. Of course it needs to look good, but we wanted people to feel connected to it. Now I'm sure you walk down the street and you see people wearing Benchmark apparel and you're like, yes, this is what I wanted. I wanted to create a lifestyle brand as well that people, not only came to work out, but they brought that on because it's so much more than a gym. Benchmark is more than a gym. That was always the idea, to create something greater than this place where you went and like sweated out for however long, for an hour, for 40 minutes. It's like we wanted people to stick around. We wanted people to feel community. We wanted people to feel like they were a part of something that they could then take that home and it becomes part of their life. And that's what you've
Oh,
done.
yes. Well, thank you. But I mean, you were a big part of that. And it's so fun to kind of be doing it again with the Vine. It's a luxury IV destination that is now living in Benchmark Fitness. And it is really cool to kind of be able to go through this experience again together, and excited to see the growth there. Now, okay, I want to go into a different direction and kind of touch on, you are embarking on a really beautiful and exciting new personal journey for your family in Australia as a mom, a new mom to beautiful baby girl Hartley. And I would just love to, obviously, this is not something that I'm experiencing at this point in my life, but I would love for you to just kind of share what that journey has been like. And especially as a entrepreneur, a female entrepreneur, a founder of your company, what does that look like? And I know that you and I as best friends have some really good chats, but however much you would like to share on that, I think that could be really empowering for some of the crew listening.
Yeah, I mean, I will keep this short and sweet because I feel like that could be a whole other episode in itself. But one of the biggest things that I always heard from people is that it is like, not only are you birthing a child, like you're birthing a new version of yourself. And I could not feel any more aligned to that. And I think that's sort of what I alluded to earlier as well, is that this has given me the insight to be like, I have a personal brand to work on. I have a personal brand to connect to. And now I feel like I have a greater market and a greater audience of, potentially moms or women wanting to embark on that journey, but more specifically, mom entrepreneurs. It is probably like the hardest job I've ever done in my entire life because I have basically two full-time jobs now, one that runs 24 hours a day and one that runs, in hours in between. But I think, one thing that, as challenging and beautiful as it is, it's gotten me clearer and clearer on where I want to spend my time, but also how I can leverage, again, my own personal brand to help others and to kind of bring that along. Like now I've found this like newfound desire and like passion to help other women coming out of like motherhood, or not coming out of motherhood, but like coming out of the early days of motherhood, into like helping them find their way with their own careers. The amount of moms that I've spoken to who no longer want to go back to the job that they once had, again, because they're kind of like their priorities have changed. They have these new desires that they want to do. And so it's so interesting because I feel like I'm finding myself in this place where I'm rediscovering like who this new me is, but ways that I also can leverage my expertise and my personal brand to help other women who are probably feeling very, very similar things. I can guarantee you they're feeling that way. I've not spoken to like one person who wants to go back to their old life, because you can't. I mean, reality is you can't. So you're just like, well, how can I, just move forward? But I think, yeah, like I said, if anything, it's making me focus even more on personal brand and on that mission to create something, again, more than just me, more than just the business that I have. And so, yeah, I think that probably is like a very broad spectrum to answer that question, but I think it's just given me clarity on where I want to spend my time and like where my passions actually are, like where they really are, and like rediscovering that again.
That's exciting, as it's like you 2.0, creating this entirely new version of you. Obviously, you're building this beautiful life with your husband Anthony and your daughter and Pino, your dog, of course. But as you're going down that journey, where are you seeking inspiration? What's lighting you up right now in this new journey and version of yourself?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know how to answer that because I feel like I'm still so in the throes of it. Like I'm 6 months out of having my little girl and she's just the sweetest. And I feel like I'm just learning new things on like how I want to show up for her, but like also for myself. So in a way, like I feel like I'm being inspired by life, if that makes sense. I'm just picking up little cues, but also inspired by the women in my life. You know, you're a huge one of them. I have some other really close girlfriends who are doing, you know, personal development work and who are leaning into that. And it's like, I want to be spending more time finding that again and finding ways to just be better. I'm so over the like 10x this and, you know, here's how to hustle harder to make things happen. Like I'm beyond that only because I truly am beyond that in business and in life. I don't buy into that personally. I do think there's a place and a time. I think in the early days, absolutely, you do have to put in a lot of hours. But like I said, I'm also 8 years past that. And so I don't subscribe to that methodology at all, but I'm trying to look for and be inspired by people who are really blending the two. Natalie Ellis is like my total
Your
girl crush
spirit
at the
animal.
moment. Natalie
Yeah.
Ellis is my spirit animal from Boss Babe because she is someone who is doing what I want to do. Like I'm looking at that for inspiration. She's combining motherhood and business, and I love that. And so I'm seeking out more women who are doing that online. And also like I'm seeking out women with really wicked style. I like need to elevate my personal style and like things that I wear. So I'm just trying to be inspired by like little lifestyle things that I can bring into my life and feel better about myself in this time where I do feel a little bit lost, but I'm trying to redefine myself and just trying to look for a little bit more direction in what feels good and like what lights me up.
Oh, I'm so excited to discuss your new brand colors when we get to dive into your new personal brand. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, I'll send you a little sneak peek after this because I've started to develop it. So I'm taking my own advice. I'm taking my own advice into who my target market is, what kind of content could be valuable to them. I'm building out a cohesive brand. Like I'm doing literally everything I said on this podcast. So if you can take anything out of that, it's really just getting clear on what your end goal is, but remembering that you are your own brand. You are your brand. There's nothing that you need to change. It's just looking at ways that you can really envelop it and really elevate the current state of it. So, yeah,
Oh,
that's what
gosh,
I'd say.
I love that. I feel like I just need to go back to be involved in your own brand. I That was my like I think my biggest takeaway from this conversation. And I mean I always have so much to take away anytime you and I chat directly. And I think that this conversation has I'm speaking for a lot of people, but this conversation has provided so much value. And I think this is definitely an episode that many of the people in our community could perhaps save and share with a friend, because whether it's a personal brand or a business that you're getting ready to launch, or you want to reestablish, that there are some really excellent takeaways and actionable takeaways. And I think that's something that you and I have in common as big, personal development junkies. We have been for a long time, and action takers, that where you can get knowledge and inspiration and then how you can apply that to take action.
Absolutely.
Now, most importantly, where can everyone find you?
Well, on the gram, I'm at Rachelle Saevil, which I'm sure you'll put in the notes so I don't have to spell that out. And then Saevil Row on Instagram as well for our branding agency, where you can find more about our work and see the beautiful vine and benchmark on there as well.
Yeah, you've done some really cool brands, and it is also so remarkable to see that you are an international agency and you've done some incredible businesses. I say local for me here in Ontario, with some of them being our friends, brands, and companies, but also all over the world. You've worked with some incredibly, notable names, and I'm so proud of you. And I've been like proud bestie for a number of years, and
Thank you.
I'm so excited for the world to consume more of you and all of the beautiful work that Saevil Row designs, and the new personal brand that is coming soon.
2.0, 2.0, baby.
2.0. I love that. Well, I have so much love for you. Thank you so much for being
Good.
here.
Of
And I can't wait
course.
to our next conversation.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Have a wonderful day, morning, evening, wherever you are. And again, I always like to express my gratitude when I'm on the show. Thank you so much for being here, for listening. And if you do have a couple of minutes to, share this episode with a friend, as I said, maybe there's somebody who needs to hear this. And if you have a couple extra seconds and you want to leave a 5-star review and a rating. That would just be so much appreciated by yours truly. Have a beautiful day. Thank you so much, and we'll see you soon. Thank you so much for listening. If you loved this episode, it would mean the world to me if you took 30 seconds and shared this on social media, send it to a friend, or leave a 5-star review. There is power in community, and I am so grateful to have you part of mine.